My name is Ethan Carter. For most people, that name means nothing. I am not the face of a billion-dollar company. I don't give speeches on big stages. I don't chase cameras or interviews. I don't care about awards or headlines. I have always been the quiet man standing behind the success everyone else celebrates. And honestly, I was happy that way. For the last 10 years, I helped build one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. My wife, Victoria Hale, became the brilliant CEO everyone admired. Investors loved her. Employees respected her. The media called her a visionary. Whenever someone congratulated me, I always gave the same answer. Asterisk, Victoria earned it. Asterisk, because that's what I believed. I never wanted the spotlight. I only wanted my wife. I only wanted our marriage to survive the pressure that came with success. Looking back now, I wish that had been enough. That morning started like every other morning. Victoria stood in front of the bedroom mirror, fixing her blazer. She smiled at me through the reflection. "Ready for tonight?" she asked. I buttoned my shirt. "I'll survive." She laughed. "That's not excitement. I've never liked company parties. You don't have to like them. Just stay for an hour. I'll stay because you asked." She walked over and adjusted my tie. "You always do." For a second, everything felt normal, comfortable, safe. If someone had told me that my entire marriage would begin falling apart before the night ended, I would have laughed. We arrived at company headquarters just before sunset. The lobby was full of music, bright lights, and hundreds of employees talking excitedly. Everywhere I looked, people were celebrating another successful year. Linda Moore from Human Resources spotted us first. "There they are," she called. Victoria smiled. "Hi, Linda." Linda hugged Victoria before turning toward me. "Ethan, you still hiding from everyone?" I chuckled. "Someone has to." She laughed. "You deserve more credit than you take." I shook my head. "I'm fine where I am." Victoria squeezed my hand. "That's one of the reasons I married him." Those words made me smile. At least, they did then. A few minutes later, Victoria walked onto the stage. The room became quiet. "Thank you, everyone," she said. "Every new employee brings fresh ideas and new energy. Tonight, we're welcoming our newest interns." Everyone applauded. One by one, the interns introduced themselves. Most gave short, nervous speeches. Then one man stepped forward. He looked confident. Too confident. Tall. Well-dressed. Perfect smile. "My name is Ryan Brooks," he said. The room applauded politely. Ryan looked toward Victoria instead of the audience. Then he smiled. "I guess I should introduce myself another way." People laughed softly. Ryan shrugged. "I'm basically Victoria's husband anyway." The room exploded with laughter. Someone whistled. Another person clapped. I didn't. I looked at Victoria. I expected her to stop him immediately, to say it was inappropriate, to remind everyone she was married. Instead, she smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an angry smile, just a smile. Then she picked up the microphone again. "Moving on," she said. "Let's continue." That was it. No correction. No apology. Nothing. Something inside me became strangely quiet. I told myself it was only a joke. People say stupid things. Maybe she didn't want to embarrass a new employee. Maybe I was reading too much into it. I repeated those excuses in my head all evening. None of them made me feel better. Later, I found Victoria near the refreshment table. "Can we talk?" I asked quietly. "Now. It'll only take a minute." She sighed. "Okay." I lowered my voice. "Why didn't you correct him?" She frowned. "Ethan, seriously? He called himself your husband. It was a joke." It didn't sound like one. She folded her arms. "You're overthinking this." "I don't think I am." It was harmless. It didn't feel harmless to me. She looked around before answering. "I can't make a scene every time someone says something stupid." "I'm not asking for a scene." "Then what are you asking for?" "I wanted my wife to say she already has a husband." She looked away. "I don't have time for this tonight." "Victoria, please." She walked away before I could finish. I stood there alone, staring at the crowd. For the first time in years, I felt like a stranger beside my own wife. As the event ended, I headed toward the parking garage. Then I heard voices around the corner. Ryan's voice. Another employee laughed. Did you really say you're basically the CEO's husband? Ryan laughed confidently. Give it time. What does that mean? It means people get replaced. You think so? I don't think. He chuckled. I know. The other employee sounded confused. What are you talking about? Ryan answered without hesitation. One day this company will belong to me. The laughter stopped. So did my breathing. I stayed hidden behind the wall. Every instinct told me to walk away. But another part of me, the part that had trusted my wife for 10 years, was suddenly asking a question I never imagined I would have to ask. What if that wasn't a joke either? I didn't confront Victoria the next morning. No matter how angry I felt, I knew one thing. Accusations without proof only destroy trust faster. So I stayed quiet. I watched. I listened. And I waited. Over the next few days, something changed. Victoria started coming home later than usual. At first, she blamed meetings, then investors, then emergency projects. Every excuse sounded reasonable, but somehow none of them felt true. Every night she walked to the front door looking exhausted, yet her phone never left her hand. Whenever I asked, "How was your day?" she answered with only 2 words. Just busy. That wasn't the Victoria I married. The woman I knew used to tell me everything. Now, it felt like I was talking to a stranger living in my own house. The questions in my mind became louder every single day. Was I imagining things, or was I finally seeing the truth? I decided I needed answers. Not guesses, not assumptions, real answers. And there was only one person I trusted enough to help me. My oldest friend, Daniel Ross. Daniel had spent years working in cybersecurity. If anyone could spot something unusual, it was him. When we met for coffee, he looked at me for a long moment before speaking. "Ethan, you don't look okay." I forced a smile. "I've had better weeks." He leaned forward. "So, tell me what's going on." For the first time, I told someone about Ryan, about the joke, about Victoria's silence, about the feeling I couldn't explain. Daniel didn't interrupt once. When I finally finished, he folded his arms. "I hope you're wrong," he said quietly. "So do I. But if something is happening," he looked directly into my eyes, "don't ignore it." His words stayed with me long after we left the cafe. I had no idea that this was only the beginning. The truth was already moving behind closed doors, and I was about to walk straight into it. I didn't confront Victoria the next morning. No matter how angry I felt, I knew one thing. Accusations without proof only destroy trust faster. So I stayed quiet. I watched. I listened. And I waited. Over the next few days, something changed. Victoria started coming home later than usual. At first, she blamed meetings, then investors, then emergency projects. Every excuse sounded reasonable, but somehow none of them felt true. Every night she walked to the front door looking exhausted, yet her phone never left her hand. Whenever I asked, "How was your day?" she answered with only 2 words. Just busy. That wasn't the Victoria I married. The woman I knew used to tell me everything. Now, it felt like I was talking to a stranger living in my own house. The questions in my mind became louder every single day. Was I imagining things, or was I finally seeing the truth? I decided I needed answers. Not guesses, not assumptions, real answers. And there was only one person I trusted enough to help me. My oldest friend, Daniel Ross. Daniel had spent years working in cybersecurity. If anyone could spot something unusual, it was him. When we met for coffee, he looked at me for a long moment before speaking. "Ethan, you don't look okay." I forced a smile. "I've had better weeks." He leaned forward. "So, tell me what's going on." For the first time, I told someone about Ryan, about the joke, about Victoria's silence, about the feeling I couldn't explain. Daniel didn't interrupt once. When I finally finished, he folded his arms. "I hope you're wrong," he said quietly. So do I. But if something is happening, he looked directly into my eyes. Don't ignore it. His words stayed with me long after we left the cafe. I had no idea that this was only the beginning. The truth was already moving behind closed doors, and I was about to walk straight into it. I kept reminding myself of one simple rule. Feelings could lie. Facts couldn't. Every time anger told me to confront Victoria, I forced myself to wait. If my marriage was falling apart, I wanted the truth, not another argument filled with guesses. I called Daniel. Can you meet? Your voice tells me this isn't about coffee. It isn't. An hour later, we sat inside his office. Daniel looked at me. So what's changed? I need evidence. He nodded slowly. Legal evidence? Only legal evidence. He smiled. That's the Ethan I know. He opened his laptop. I've been checking the company's systems from the access you still have. Something strange is happening. What did you find? Someone deleted internal messages. I frowned. Deleted? Yes, but deleting doesn't always erase everything. He typed for several seconds. Look at this. A list appeared on the screen. What am I looking at? Calendar entries. They look normal. They would, if they weren't disappearing every Friday. My stomach tightened. What meetings? I don't know. Can you recover them? Daniel nodded. Most of them. Minutes later, another file appeared. I stared at the screen. Every deleted meeting included only 2 names. Victoria. Ryan. I swallowed hard. No department heads. No investors. No board members. Daniel looked at me. Just the 2 of them. I stayed silent. He placed a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to believe the worst. I'm not asking you to. I just need answers. And we'll find them. The next afternoon, I visited the office without telling Victoria. Sophia Lane noticed me first. Mr. Carter? Can we talk? She looked around nervously. Not here. 10 minutes later, we stood near the empty rooftop garden. Sophia avoided my eyes. I shouldn't even be here. I won't ask you to betray anyone. You don't understand. Help me understand. She took a deep breath. For months, Ms. Hale has been scheduling private meetings with Ryan. I know about the calendar. Her eyes widened. You do? I know enough to ask questions. Sophia lowered her voice. I wanted to say something. Then why didn't you? I'm afraid. Of Ryan? She nodded. He has influence. He's an intern. Not the way people treat him. What do you mean? Managers listen to him. Why? I honestly don't know. She looked toward the hallway. If anyone sees us, they won't. She sighed. Please don't mention my name. I won't. I need this job. You have my word. She whispered one final sentence before leaving. Whatever Ryan wants, Victoria says yes. Those words echoed in my head all day. By the end of the week, Ryan wasn't even pretending to be humble anymore. He walked through executive offices without permission. He interrupted senior managers. He gave instructions like he owned the building. Nobody challenged him. One afternoon, he stopped beside my desk. Hey! I looked up. What? He smirked. Still playing the invisible husband? I stared back. I didn't know marriage was a competition. He laughed. It isn't. Then why bring it up? Because nobody notices you. He leaned closer. They only notice power. I said nothing. He smiled wider. I thought so. He walked away laughing. Every instinct told me to punch him. Instead, I opened my notebook and wrote down the time, place, and every word he had spoken. That evening, Victoria came home late again. Long day? I asked. Very. Dinner? I'm not hungry. You've said that 3 nights in a row. I'm tired, Ethan. You've also stopped looking at me. She froze. Please don't start. I'm trying to understand. There's nothing to understand. Then help me. She picked up her bag. I have another meeting tomorrow. With Ryan? She turned sharply. Why are you obsessed with him? I'm asking a simple question. You don't trust me. I want a reason to. She walked upstairs without answering. 2 days later, the company hosted a private dinner for investors. I attended because Victoria insisted. Ryan arrived wearing an expensive suit that no intern should have been able to afford. He greeted everyone before stopping beside our table. He looked at Victoria. "You look amazing tonight." She smiled politely. "Thank you." Then he turned toward me. His smile changed. He raised his glass. "To my future." The room laughed softly. My chest tightened. He never looked away from me. Neither did I. I slowly lifted my own glass. "To the truth." Ryan blinked. Victoria looked uncomfortable. Nobody else understood what had just happened. Ryan believed my silence meant surrender. Victoria believed I was finally accepting the situation. Both of them were wrong. I wasn't giving up. I wasn't looking away. While they celebrated appearances, I was quietly collecting pieces of a puzzle. And sooner or later, the perfect mask was going to crack. I barely slept after the investor dinner. Ryan's words kept repeating in my head. Asterisk to my future. Asterisk. He hadn't sounded nervous. He had sounded certain. The next morning, Daniel called before sunrise. "Ethan, I found something." "Is it bad?" "It's worse than I expected." "I'll be there in 20 minutes. When I arrived, Daniel already had several files open across his monitors. He didn't smile. "Sit down." I did. "What am I looking at?" "Company transfers. They seem normal." "They aren't." He clicked another document. These payments were approved as consulting fees. I frowned. I've never heard of these companies. Neither had I. He opened another window. "They don't have real offices." My stomach tightened. "Fake companies?" Daniel nodded. "Most likely." I leaned closer. "Who approved the transfers?" He hesitated. "Victoria." For several seconds, I couldn't speak. "No, I'm sorry. There has to be another explanation." "I hope there is." He turned the screen toward me. "Every document carries her digital signature." I rubbed my face. "So, she moved company money?" "That's what the paperwork says." My heart sank. The woman I loved believed in honesty. She had built her reputation on integrity. None of this made sense. Daniel broke the silence. "There's more." I looked up. "More." He pointed to another report. "Follow the money." The payments traveled through several companies before reaching one final account. I read the name twice. Brooks Holdings. Daniel nodded. "Ryan's family." I stared at the screen. So this wasn't about buying gifts. No, it wasn't about expensive dinners. No, it's much bigger. Daniel folded his arms. Someone convinced Victoria to invest company money into businesses connected to Ryan's family. I whispered, "Why would she do that?" "I don't know, but someone knows." Daniel looked directly. I wanted to expose Ryan the moment I learned the truth. Every part of me wanted to walk into Victoria's office, throw every document on her desk, and demand an explanation. But anger wins battles. Patience wins wars. So I stayed silent. Not because I was afraid, because I was preparing. The next morning, Daniel, Olivia, and I met in Daniel's office. Daniel closed the door behind me. "Everything is ready," he said. Olivia placed a thick folder on the table. "These are copies of every suspicious contract we recovered." I looked through the papers. "So this is enough?" She shook her head. "It's enough to ask questions, but not enough to prove intent." Daniel nodded. "We need Ryan to expose himself." I leaned back. "Then we'll give him the chance." Olivia looked at me carefully. "You understand what that means?" "I do." "You'll have to pretend nothing is wrong." "I've already been doing that." Daniel smiled. "Good, because Ryan thinks he's the smartest man in the room." I answered quietly. "Let's make sure he keeps thinking that." Over the next few days, I played my role perfectly. Whenever Ryan mocked me, I smiled. Whenever he questioned my decisions, I stayed calm. Whenever he expected me to lose my temper, I disappointed him. One afternoon, he stopped outside my office. "Still hanging around?" he asked with a grin. "I work here. For now." I shrugged. "I guess we'll see." He laughed. "I almost feel sorry for you." Don't. He tilted his head. You're taking this surprisingly well. I've learned something. And what's that? People usually destroy themselves if you give them enough time. His smile faded for only a second. Then he laughed again. You really are the invisible husband. He walked away believing he'd won. He had no idea every conversation was being documented. That evening, Daniel called. The security team finished installing the monitoring system. Legally, every approval is signed. Good. They'll alert us if Ryan accesses restricted financial files. Perfect. Olivia joined the call. I've also arranged a routine audit. Will Ryan know? He'll think it's standard procedure. I smiled for the first time in days. Exactly what we need. The next step was the hardest. I needed Ryan to believe he had found an opportunity. So I planted one. During a strategy meeting, I casually mentioned a fake overseas investment. I made sure Ryan was close enough to hear. I said, if this project succeeds, it could double the company's value. A senior manager asked, is it confirmed? Not yet, I answered. Only a few executives know about it. Ryan never looked up from his tablet, but I noticed him listening. The trap had been set. 2 days later, Daniel rushed into my office. He took the bait. What happened? He searched the fake project files 3 different times. Anything else? He tried copying confidential documents. I smiled. He couldn't. Daniel shook his head. The files never existed. So he exposed himself. Exactly. For the first time, the evidence wasn't pointing toward Ryan. It was coming from Ryan. Meanwhile, Victoria began asking him questions. I noticed a change immediately. One afternoon, I walked past her office. The door wasn't completely closed. I heard her voice. Ryan, that's not what you told me. His answer came quickly. I remembered it differently. You've changed your explanation twice. You're worrying too much. A long silence followed. Then Victoria said quietly, I don't like being confused. Ryan answered with confidence. Trust me. I kept walking. For the first time in weeks, Victoria sounded uncertain. But uncertainty wasn't enough. She still defended him in every meeting. She still ignored every warning. Her pride had become stronger than her judgment. Days passed. The pressure inside the company became impossible to ignore. Managers whispered in hallways. Departments argued over missing reports. The audit made everyone nervous. Ryan, however, acted more confident than ever. It was almost as if he believed nothing could touch him. Then Friday arrived. Ryan gathered several department heads outside the executive conference room. I happened to be walking past. He looked directly at me and smiled. I hope you're enjoying your final week. I stopped. What do you mean? He folded his arms. Next week's board meeting changes everything. I stayed silent. He stepped closer. When it's over, he smiled wider. You won't have a place in this company anymore. He walked away laughing. The hallway fell silent. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. I watched him disappear around the corner. He believed he had already won. He had no idea. The biggest trap of his life was waiting behind the boardroom doors. The morning of the board meeting felt different, not because I was afraid, because I finally knew the truth. For weeks, I had stayed silent while Ryan laughed at me, mocked me, and treated me like I didn't belong. Today, his performance would end. I arrived at the company before anyone else. Daniel was already waiting outside the conference room. You ready? He asked. I nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. Olivia joined us a few moments later, carrying a thick case filled with documents. Everything is organized, she said. No surprises? She gave me a small smile. The only surprise will be Ryan's face. The board members slowly entered the room. Some greeted me politely. Others looked confused. They had no idea why an emergency meeting had been called. Victoria walked in last. She avoided looking at me. Ryan followed beside her, wearing the same confident smile that had irritated me for weeks. He looked at me and whispered, I hope you packed your office. I smiled. I hope you prepared your explanation. He laughed. I won't need one. The chairman stood. This meeting will now begin. Ryan stood immediately. If I may, I'd like to address the board. The chairman nodded. Go ahead. Ryan walked to the front of the room. He connected his laptop to the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, our company has suffered serious internal sabotage. A chart appeared behind him. I've uncovered evidence proving Ethan Carter deliberately interfered with company projects. Murmurs spread around the room. Ryan continued confidently. He delayed software releases. Another slide appeared. He manipulated financial reports. Then another, and he attempted to damage the company's reputation. Several board members looked toward me. Victoria remained silent. She still couldn't meet my eyes. Ryan smiled. I recommend Mr. Carter's immediate removal. The chairman turned toward me. Mr. Carter, do you wish to respond? I slowly stood. Yes. I carried one small folder to the center of the room. I only have one request. The chairman nodded. Proceed. I looked directly at Ryan. You finished speaking? He smiled. I have. Good. I opened my folder, because now it's my turn. I handed the first document to every board member. These are certified security reports. Ryan frowned. What are you doing? I ignored him. The reports show every login used to access restricted company files. Daniel walked forward. With permission? The chairman nodded. Daniel connected his computer. I personally verified these records. A timeline appeared on the screen. Daniel pointed calmly. Every unauthorized access came from one employee. The room became quiet. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Daniel clicked again. Ryan Brooks. Ryan immediately interrupted. That's impossible. Daniel remained calm. The system records cannot be altered without leaving evidence. Another chart appeared. They matched the building security cameras. Olivia stepped forward next. She opened another folder. I'd like the board to review these consulting contracts. Several members examined the papers. One director frowned. These signatures belong to Victoria. Olivia nodded. They appear to... Ryan smiled. Exactly. Olivia looked directly at him. They're forgeries. The smile disappeared from his face. She continued. Our forensic specialist confirmed that Victoria's digital signature was copied and inserted into multiple documents. Victoria finally looked up. What? Olivia placed another report before her. You never approved these final versions. Victoria stared at the pages. I never saw this. Ryan quickly spoke. She's lying. I looked at him, then explained the editing history. Daniel displayed another screen. The original files were modified from Ryan Brooks' company account. The chairman leaned forward. Is that correct? Daniel answered without hesitation. Every edit is time-stamped. The room fell silent. Ryan pointed at Victoria. She told me to do it. Victoria looked shocked. No, I didn't. You signed everything. I trusted you. Ryan laughed nervously. So now it's all my fault? Olivia answered before anyone else could. The emails say otherwise. She handed printed copies around the room. One board member read aloud. Don't tell Victoria until the transfer is complete. Another looked at Ryan. Care to explain that? Ryan's confidence finally cracked. That's out of context. I spoke quietly. No. I placed one final document on the table. It isn't. The chairman examined it. Witness statements? I nodded. Employees who watched Ryan pressure departments into approving unauthorized transactions. The chairman looked around the room. I believe we've heard enough. Before Ryan could speak again, the conference room door opened. Two investigators walked inside. One displayed an identification badge. Ryan Brooks. Ryan stepped backward. What is this? You are being detained for questioning regarding suspected financial fraud, document forgery, and unauthorized access to corporate systems. Ryan looked desperately at Victoria. Say something. She couldn't. Tears filled her eyes. She finally whispered, Ethan tried to warn me. Neither investigator waited. They escorted Ryan toward the door. For the first time since this nightmare began, the room was completely silent. Not because anyone had lost an argument, because the truth had finally spoken louder than every lie. The morning after Ryan's arrest, the entire country, seemed to know his name. Every news channel repeated the same story. A rising intern, a billion-dollar company, forgery, fraud, corporate deception, and one dramatic arrest inside a board meeting. I watched the television in complete silence. The headlines weren't celebrating justice. They were exposing years of lies. Daniel sat across from me with a cup of coffee. You expected this? I nodded slowly. I expected the truth. He looked at the screen. Ryan's family is involved. What happened? Daniel handed me his tablet. Investigators traced the money. I scrolled through the report. Every fake company, every illegal transfer, every hidden account. They all led back to one name, Mark Brooks, Ryan's father. I looked at Daniel. So it wasn't just Ryan. He shook his head. No, he learned from someone. Exactly. The investigation uncovered years of financial fraud connected to Mark's businesses. The empire they had quietly built was falling apart one document at a time. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt tired. Later that afternoon, Olivia called. The board has reached a decision. I already know. You probably do. I sighed. Victoria. Olivia answered gently. She has officially stepped down as CEO. I closed my eyes. They removed her. They had no choice. She approved documents without proper oversight. Olivia paused before speaking again. She made terrible decisions. I know, but she wasn't a mastermind. I know that too. After hanging up, I sat alone in my office. For weeks, I had imagined this moment. I thought justice would feel satisfying. Instead, it felt heavy. The woman I loved had lost everything she spent 10 years building. 3 days later, someone knocked on my apartment door. When I opened it, Victoria stood there. She looked nothing like the confident CEO I had known. Her eyes were red. Her shoulders were slumped. She looked exhausted. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside. She entered without saying another word. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry." I looked at her. For what? Her voice broke. For all of it. She covered her face. I kept telling myself I was helping someone with potential. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I admired Ryan's confidence. She struggled to breathe. I thought I was mentoring him. I stayed silent. She continued. I confused admiration with something deeper. She looked directly into my eyes. I never realized he was manipulating me. I asked quietly, "When did you stop trusting me?" She cried harder. "I don't know. I wish I did. I stopped listening. I stopped coming home. I stopped seeing what was right in front of me." She wiped away her tears. "And every time you tried to warn me," she couldn't finish the sentence. I finished it for her. "You defended him." She nodded. "Yes." Another silence filled the room. Then she whispered the words I never expected to hear. "I destroyed our marriage." Hearing that confession hurt more than every lie she had told, because this time, she wasn't making excuses. She wasn't protecting Ryan. She was finally telling the truth. I looked out the window. I wanted revenge. She lowered her head. "I know. I imagine exposing both of you. I'm sorry. I imagine watching everything collapse." She closed her eyes. "You did." I slowly shook my head. "No." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I didn't destroy your career. I didn't destroy Ryan. I didn't destroy your reputation." I looked back at her. The truth did. She started crying again. I would give anything to change it. "I believe you." "You do?" "Yes." She looked surprised. "I believe you're sorry." Hope briefly appeared in her eyes. Then I quietly said, "But being sorry doesn't erase what happened." Her shoulders dropped. "I know." I took a deep breath. For weeks I thought revenge would heal me. Did it? I answered honestly. No. What healed me? I looked at the wedding photo still sitting on the bookshelf. Was realizing karma had already done everything I thought I wanted to do. At that very moment, my phone buzzed. Daniel had sent one short message. Judge Eleanor Hayes had denied Ryan's request for bail. The investigation against Ryan and Mark Brooks would continue. Justice was moving forward, without my anger, without my revenge, without another fight. As Victoria quietly walked toward the door, I finally understood something. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes karma speaks first. 6 months changed my life more than the previous 10 years ever had. When I looked in the mirror, I no longer saw the broken husband who had walked away from his marriage. I saw someone rebuilding himself, not through revenge, not through anger, but through purpose. One Monday morning, Daniel walked into my small office, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He smiled. Ready for day one? I laughed. I've been ready for months. He placed a cup on my desk. Then let's build something we're proud of. That was the beginning of our consulting company. We didn't have a fancy building. We didn't have expensive furniture. We didn't even have many clients. But we had something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace. Daniel looked around the empty office. Kind of small. For now, I replied. He grinned. I like that answer. Instead of chasing billion-dollar deals, we focus on helping businesses solve real problems. Every client mattered. Every promise mattered. Every handshake meant something. For the first time, I wasn't building someone else's dream. I was building my own. A few weeks later, someone knocked on the office door. When I opened it, I smiled. Sophia. She smiled back. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. Come in. She looked around the office. This feels different. I'll take that as a compliment. She laughed. It is. Daniel joined us. Sophia. Hi, Daniel. She took a deep breath. I resigned from Victoria's company yesterday. I nodded slowly. I figured you might. I couldn't stay there anymore. You don't owe anyone an explanation. She smiled. I was hoping you might need an operations manager. I looked at Daniel. He looked at me. Then we both smiled. When can you start? I asked. Her eyes filled with relief. Really? Really? She laughed for the first time since I'd met her. I won't let you down. I know you won't. A month later, Olivia stopped by the office carrying another stack of papers. Daniel laughed. I swear you always bring paperwork. Olivia smiled. That's because paperwork keeps people out of trouble. She looked at me. I've been thinking. About what? If you're willing. I waited. I'd like to become your company's legal advisor. I couldn't hide my smile. We'd be lucky to have you. She extended her hand. Then it's official. I shook it. It certainly is. Slowly, our little company began to grow. Not because we advertised the loudest. Not because we promised impossible results. People came because they trusted us. That trust meant more than any award I had ever received. One Saturday afternoon, Daniel convinced me to attend a charity fundraiser. You've spent enough time working, he said. I'm working right now. No, he laughed. You're hiding. I'm not hiding. You've been in the office 6 days this week. I like my office. You need fresh air. An hour later, I admitted he was right. The event was filled with business owners, volunteers, and local families. As I walked through the crowd, I suddenly stopped. Victoria stood across the room. For a moment, neither of us moved. She looked different. There were no designer clothes, no confident smile, no team following behind her. She looked calmer, humbler, almost peaceful. She slowly walked toward me. Hello, Ethan. Hi, Victoria. It's been a while. It has. She smiled gently. I heard your company is doing well. We're growing. I'm happy for you. Thank you. She looked around before speaking again. I volunteer here every weekend. I didn't know. It helps remind me what really matters. I nodded. I'm glad. She took a slow breath. I've wanted to tell you something. I waited quietly. Thank you. I looked surprised. For what? For exposing the truth. I frowned slightly. You don't have to thank me. I do. She smiled sadly. If none of that had happened, she looked toward the families around us. I would still be chasing power instead of becoming a better person. I stayed silent. She continued. Losing everything forced me to look at myself honestly. She looked into my eyes. And even though it cost me our marriage, her voice softened. It saved the person I was becoming. For the first time since everything ended, I smiled without sadness. I'm glad you found your way. And you? I looked around at the people laughing nearby. I think I finally found mine too. We stood there for another moment. No anger, no blame, no painful memories demanding answers. Just two people who had survived the same storm in different ways. As Victoria walked back toward the volunteers, I realized something. Sometimes life doesn't give us the ending we planned. Sometimes it gives us the chance to become someone we never imagined we could be. Sometimes I stand on the balcony outside my office before anyone else arrives. The city wakes up slowly. Cars begin filling the streets. Lights turn on inside nearby buildings. People hurry toward another busy day. And every now and then, I think about the night that changed my life forever. The night Ryan stood in front of an entire company and smiled before saying, asterisk, I'm basically Victoria's husband. Asterisk. Back then, those words felt like the beginning of the end. I thought my marriage was over. I thought my life was falling apart. I thought I had lost everything that mattered. I was wrong. Looking back now, that wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of the man I was meant to become. A knock interrupted my thoughts. Daniel stepped onto the balcony, carrying 2 coffees. You've been out here a while, he said. I was thinking. Dangerous habit. I laughed. So I've been told. He handed me a cup. You know our biggest client just renewed their contract? I heard. They specifically asked for you. Why? Daniel smiled. They said they trust your honesty more than anyone else's. I looked down at the busy streets below. A year ago, I wanted recognition. Today, trust meant far more than recognition ever could. As our company grew, one thing never changed. We never promised what we couldn't deliver. We never hid mistakes. We never sacrificed integrity for profit. People didn't choose us because we were the biggest. They chose us because they believed our word. That realization meant more than any award hanging on my office wall. Later that afternoon, Olivia walked into my office carrying another folder. I laughed, still bringing paperwork. She smiled. Someone has to keep you honest. I think you're doing a good job. She placed a folder on my desk. Another successful quarter. Daniel leaned against the doorway. Not bad for 3 people who started with one tiny office. I smiled. We've come a long way. And we're just getting started. I nodded. I believe that. Life continued moving forward. News about Ryan appeared less often. His trial ended months earlier. The court found him guilty of fraud, forgery, and financial crimes. He remained in prison. I didn't celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. A ruined life isn't entertainment. It's a reminder that every choice carries a price. Mark Brooks also lost everything his family had built through deception. Their empire disappeared almost as quickly as it had risen. Justice had done its work without my hatred. Victoria slowly rebuilt her own life. She never returned to chasing power. Instead, she accepted a smaller leadership role at a nonprofit technology foundation, helping young entrepreneurs build ethical businesses. One afternoon, she sent me a short message. Asterisk, thank you for teaching me that success without integrity is failure. Asterisk, I smiled before replying. Asterisk, take care of yourself. Asterisk, that was enough. We didn't need to rewrite the past. We only needed to live better futures. One evening, Daniel and I locked the office after another long day. He looked at me. Can I ask you something? Of course. If you could go back. He paused. Would you stop any of this from happening? I thought carefully before answering. I would stop the pain. But not the lessons. He nodded slowly. I figured you'd say that. I looked up at the sunset. For a long time, I believed revenge would heal me. And I was wrong. What healed you? I smiled, choosing not to become bitter. He placed a hand on my shoulder. I'm proud of you. Thanks. No. He laughed softly. I mean it. So do I. As I drove home that night, I realized something that had taken me far too long to understand. The greatest revenge was never exposing Ryan. It was never watching Victoria lose her position. It was never proving I had been right. The greatest revenge was refusing to let betrayal decide the kind of man I would become. People can lie to you. They can disappoint you. They can break your heart. But only you decide whether those moments make you cruel or make you stronger. I chose strength. I chose peace. I chose self-respect over resentment. And that choice gave me something no title, no company, and no amount of money ever could. A life I was proud to live. If my story has taught me anything, it's this: justice arrives in its own time. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. But self-respect must always come first. And as I look toward the future, I finally understood something I had spent years searching for. I hadn't just survived betrayal. I had become the man I was always meant to be. The end.